And then this is a C16, Queensland Railway C16, 46480, beg your pardon. I didn't have it long, and I had a bloke who made me an offer I couldn't resist and bought it. And he's got it for sale now. He tried to beat me down on price. Oh, you know, like engines don't bring much. So now he's got it for sale for 10,000 more than he bought it off me for. So that's about par for the course these blokes who buy engines. So. Two things I've found over the years: blokes who buy engines off you don't normally keep them very long. They haven't got the heartfelt attachment to the thing. They didn't build it. When you build an engine, it's hard to sell them because you've got that involvement in the thing. But a bloke who buys an engine like that one, it's just a thing. He's run it, he's a member of a driving club and runs it up there a few times, and the novelty's worn off it, so he's got it for sale. 20 years ago he had a C36 that I think it was one of Bruce Teasdale's engines, I'm not sure. And again he had it for about 12 months and sold it, and never heard any more of him then until he turned up and wanted to buy that. That's that. Right, now we get on to the 12-inch gauge engines. That was the first one I built. It's a half-size Fowler traction, Fowler cane locos that ran at Nambour Sugar Mill. They had two there, Udlow and Coolum, which were identical engines, built by Fowlers. Ran for many years, very successful engines. All the mills like Fowler cane locos, they're a particularly good engine. And I made that for a young chap in New South Wales. At that time he was involved with Warnervale that Arthur Birch had started, and now many years later Len now owns Warnervale. When Arthur Birch died he had no family and he left the whole property to Len. So he owns the thing down there now, and his loco's still going and had a major refit about 5 years ago. Did you do the refit? No, Bill Richards, that was a member of the club down at Ryde, but he worked at Everleigh Workshops all his working life, so he knows all about it. He was a fantastic machinist, and he had a terrific workshop in his backyard, and he stripped and completely rebuilt the engine and did some alterations to it which I wasn't totally agreed with. He tried to make it look too much like a mainline engine and had a lot of fancy fit up in the cab that was not cane loco. But it was all very nice, beautifully done, but it wasn't rebuilt as a cane loco. It sort of had the inside of the cab look more like a 38. All sorts of fancy gauges and things in it. But it's still running very well anyway. The second 12-inch gauge engine I built was for another two chaps who were involved with Warnervale. These have been commissions, have they? Yeah. So two blokes initially, they paid for it, and be about 6 or 8 years after, the one chap had a lot of illness, blood disorders and what have you, eventually died at age 55, but before he died he sold his share of the engine to his mate, Adrian Samuels down there, owns the engine outright now, and he's one of the best ale owners I've seen. The engine looks better than when it was first built. He absolutely keeps it immaculate. It's all polished and greased and oiled. It was a Huntsville Clark cane loco from North Queensland. It's all polished and greased and oiled. Picture without a frame. That was based on, I had a drawing of a small branch line locomotive built by Baldwin's. The original was a 3-foot gauge engine. So that's a third full size and still a fairly small engine, but that was my favourite engine in all the 12-inch gauge ones, surprisingly enough. It was the smallest of the 12-inch gauge engines I built. Beautiful little engine to drive. It had Stephenson's valve gear in it. And good Stephenson's valve gear is still one of the best valve gears ever produced. That's still down there now. It's had one, two, third owner now. Fourth owner. The chap I built it for was Len Gort's brother, the chap who owns the place now, Len Gort. It was his younger brother I built it for. And he went strange and packed up his bags and moved out of Warnervale one weekend and moved up to Lisco. And initially he took the loco with him, but then he advertised it for sale. So Len got him to bring it back down to Warnervale because that was the only place they likely to sell it because there's not many 12-inch gauge railways around. And a fellow driver that Len knew bought it, but he only ran it about once every 6 months. A weird sort of bloke. And eventually his wife browbeat him into selling the thing. She didn't like it ever. Didn't like him going up to Warnervale. So it was sold to a chap that lived up here at Bribey. He only had it for 3 months. He got crook and died. So now there's a young chap down there that would have liked to have bought it in the first place and didn't have the money then. Anyway, when this chap up here died, he bought the engine very cheap and the family let it go for the same price. So the young chap with a bit of savings and borrowed a couple of thousand from the bank, he ended up buying it. Only paid $10,000 for that thing. That was virtually brand new. The original owner paid $32,000 for it. And at the time when Len told me it was for sale, if I lived a bit closer I'd have bought it myself for that price. It was too far to go down to Warnervale to run the thing, you know. So anyway, it's still at Warnervale, and the young chap who's got it now, you know, he's basically in his early 30s, and he's wrapped. He's there every weekend, polishing it and then having a run and polishing it again and so on and so.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it is. He's really wrapped in the thing, so it's good to see it. This was our 12-inch gauge engine, based on a cane loco in Hawaii, and I rebuilt it from an old wreck. The only thing that was any good was the boiler. The rest of the engine was absolutely, well, very poorly built and it was falling apart. So I just used the boiler which had been commercially made, was A1, and built a new loco similar to the original, and to a drawing I had of a little loco that ran in Hawaii. And it's still down there now, but it hasn't been run. Arthur Birch owned that, and he was about 94 when he died, and his last few years he was losing the plot and he didn't look after the engines very well. It was getting a bit run down and it was filthy and all that sort of thing, and a few of the boiler fittings were worn out. It hadn't run for a few years, but it's in the process of being rebuilt now. Adrian was a fitter in the carriage workshops at Everly, and he's pulled all the pieces and he sent the boiler down to a boiler firm in Sydney and getting new gauge glasses fitted and all sorts of things. Yeah, so she'll live to fight another day. So that was about the run of them, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, Eric. There.
Oh, is this a proposal?
It's an incredible life's work.
Oh, yeah, well, it has, but
done. It's just, I can't believe all the work. So, you have worked on trains. What age did you start?
I'd have been 25, I think, when I went from my apprenticeship into the Air Force. Well, while I was in the Air Force, I never worried about trying to set up a workshop because I knew I'd be moving around. So I joined the Model Aeroplane Club when in Townsville and got involved with that a bit. And then once I got out the Air Force and we came back to Brisbane and built the house, that's when, right, now I can set up my workshop. So with very little money and a lot of second-hand material, I built a shed in the backyard of the house we had built at Currabee, and started there on the miniature stuff, 5-inch gauge. And once I moved out to Park Ridge 10 years later, and started to work for myself out there and built up my machinery, then I had the gear to build these bigger locomotives. But I look at it this way, I'm one of the few blokes who's worked all my life on a job that I really love. Right? Most blokes just have a job to earn money to live.
I understand that. I have done the same thing.
Yeah, you know what it's like. Yeah. You
Right.
enjoy what you're doing. Doesn't become a labour, does it?
Thank you very much indeed for your trouble.
Oh,
Let's hope
pleasure.
this works out.
Yeah.